and then what? All right, let's bring in the better minds. Chair of the Urban Warfare Studies at the Modern War Institute at West Point, John Spencer, and former U.S. Special Envoy for Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, Frank Lowenstein. It's good to have you both. Frank, let me start with you. This idea of not just fighting a two-front war, which I'll save for the military theorist expert to tell us why you don't want to do that, but in terms of enticing the region to want to get involved before they have another Gaza, how likely is that based on Israel's actions right now?
Well, I think we're really at risk of getting dragged into a regional war here. The problem is when Israel starts attacking civilian infrastructure in Lebanon, particularly in Beirut, the risk is that Hezbollah will respond in kind. And then we're on a short path to a ground invasion by Israel. And at that point, you know, the United States can get dragged into this much more quickly than I think a lot of folks here in the United States realize. So I think our hope is that this escalation to de-escalation process will work and ground strikes will be enough to get Hezbollah to back off. But I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen from this point forward.
Well, because they're against a real formidable enemy this time. Yes, terrorists, but much more than Hamas offered up. So, John, let's talk about what this means for the United States. Am I wrong to be concerned about boots on the ground going into Lebanon, if only to do logistics and evacuations?
I mean, I think everybody should be concerned about the terrorist activity in the Middle East. And I won't speak to the U.S. forces. I mean, I think augmenting forces for even force protection is not a bad thing, but there is history there. Of course, ask the right question, ask the leadership the questions. But I think the whole narrative of now we have a two-front war, Israel is now doing this. I mean, the headline should be Israel is defending itself in a seven-front war, that there's been 8,000 Hezbollah rockets attacking Israel for over a year, and the world's like, well, you should not do anything about that. I mean, it's crazy. They have 80 to 100,000 Israelis homeless. It won't be another Gaza. The objectives are completely different, but I think the narrative, you just talked about double standards, and any other country in this situation, this wouldn't be the questions we were asking.
Why do you think it is with Israel?
I mean, there's a long list of people trying to rewrite history. What is sovereign borders? A terrorist organization. I mean, I saw somebody calling the pager operation terrorism conducted by Israel. People have lost their mind on who are terrorists, who are actually defending their civilians, who are trying to get their civilians killed. People trying to rewrite borders, call people resistance fighters. I mean, we don't have time to talk to all the reasons, but it's just crazy.
I agree. I agree with the conclusion. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, listen, I agree with John. And I think the Biden administration is squarely behind the Israelis right now. I think there was an intolerable situation with respect to Hezbollah, and Israel has every right to act. I don't think anybody cared about the killing of Akil. I think a lot of people quietly celebrated that. The question is, what's next? And is there a risk of miscalculation here that's going to drag the U.S. into a conflict that literally nobody in this country wants? And the problem is we just have no influence over Netanyahu at all. So if he decides in his own sole and unreviewable discretion that a ground invasion into Lebanon is the only way to meet their military objectives. Oh, by the way, total victory. Right. And nobody can define what total victory means when it comes to somebody like that. Then, you get to a risk reward that doesn't work for the United States anymore. And I think
Israel has never been allowed to claim total victory either, which is another weird part of this equation. The one thing you left out, John, and then I'll give you the last point, Netanyahu is also part of the problem in this situation. And politically in the U.S., it's hard because you don't want to criticize your ally. But Bibi was running a far-right situation that was sideways with the Israeli population to begin with. And now he's not exactly the face of peace, John. That doesn't help the situation either.
I mean, I think we have to talk about all the dilemmas that Israel is under. And I don't want, I want another country involved in our politics as much as I want to be involved in other democratic nations' politics. Right. So he's not a dictator. He doesn't make the decision on even the goals of the war. They have a war cabinet. Yeah, he's an influence. But in this case, with like to what end, the goals for Israel in the north is very clear, and they've stated it just like they stated their goals against Hamas: repopulate the north, have Hezbollah stop attacking. And they've tried a full year of diplomatic ways, like, please stop attacking us. And somebody views this as escalation. It's crazy.
I get your perspective on it, and I welcome it to the audience. Thank you very much, John Spencer. Frank Lowenstein, thank you very much. Appreciate you both. And for